For any of you who have ever signed a contract, I've never heard anyone say, "Damn, I love that fine print." It's always been, "Man, I got screwed over by the fine print." And Wayne Rooney, I guess, said, "Nothing in fine print is ever good," and I think that's true. I totally agree with it. I don't understand why contracts even have fine print. Why can't they put everything the same font size? I remember when I signed my first cell phone contract, I was happy. And even though the company claimed to have no annual contracts, they still made me sign one. And they said I didn't have to pay every single month. It was a month-to-month thing. And one month I decided not to pay because I didn't have any money. And I could go without my cell phone for a month. And so the next month I decided to go reconnect my phone. To my surprise, they told me I had to pay twice as much from what I was paying. I was upset. So I called customer service and I was calling them all afternoon until I finally talked to somebody, like one of the supervisors, and they told me that in the fine print there was, if you have to keep paying month to month to keep your phone number. If not, you have to pay to get it reactivated. And I said a couple of inappropriate things to the supervisor, and eventually they just reconnected my phone, and I didn't have to pay twice as much. I just had to pay the month that I was paying. And there's always artists and athletes and anyone who's ever signed a contract that has problems with the fine print, or even when you agree to terms and services of a product. Like, I've been screwed over by free software. They claim to be free, but in the fine print, if you do something, exceed something, they start charging you, and that really sucks. I can't think of anything else. Thank you.
Well, Alex, you started off pretty well. I thought that you had a nice, good opinion to start with. You tied it into the topic pretty effectively. Your thesis was relatively clear. You don't really then have a plan of action after that. You've got one example that you're going to be talking about, and you need a little bit more of a plan. And sometimes it's, you've got a good story, that one, and it gets you quite a ways into the speech. The problem is it's the only one you've got, and you need to think about some other things when you're getting ready to speak. Sometimes it happens that people just take something too literally, and you're just thinking of contracts, for instance. But, when are there other times or experiences when, something was hidden from you in some way? Not necessarily in the fine print, but it was part of the package and you didn't know it. I'm sure you've probably had a girlfriend or two over the years that you didn't realize, this went along with having to be your boyfriend, that kind of thing. And now everybody gives a better speech in the car on the way home afterwards. You're going to think of 3 things that would have fit in really well with this, and that happens. So don't beat yourself up too much about the last part, but I do want to point out that when you do get stuck, you don't want to bail. And that's kind of what you did. If we were just doing this as an exercise and this was practice in class, we'd slough it off. But it's still supposed to be a speech, so you don't want to get into your speech and say, well, I don't have anything else to say, and then just sit down. Come back to the point that you were trying to make. Just remind us what the thesis of the point was. So, well, I don't have another contract to talk about, but I tell you what, it's pretty obvious from the two examples that I gave you that nothing in fine print is ever good news. And then just stop. And even though you didn't go as long as you might have and feel as comfortable as you would have, you still leave a good impression instead of a negative impression at the end. And I think that will help. Delivery things, your voice projects pretty well. I think there's okay variety there. Sometimes there's an awkward pause here or there when you're trying to think of the next idea. You're best when you're talking about the example. You do have a tendency to play with the topic. That's one of those things I tried to mention to people the other day. When you've got the piece of paper in your hand, you needed to remind people what the audience, what the topic is. But once you've done that, you want to get it out of your hand because you're wrapping it around your fingers, you're unwrapping it around your fingers, you're pulling it, you're folding it, all those kinds of little things, and that becomes a distraction for you. Instead of focusing on the audience and what you're talking about, you've got that, and so that's a little bit of a problem. You also are rocking on your feet a little bit whenever you get stuck. That's sort of the indication of anxiety that's going on there. All right, thank you.